Hi everybody. So today we're going to talk about collisions. And we've done this before. We've given 2D physics to our objects. And now what we're going to do is have an action happen if we have a collision through code. So I've got a setup here which you're probably familiar with. So I have a Shrek object called Shrek head clear, and notice that I've got code associated with this, and we can look at that Shrek code. And if you click one time on the C# file one time, you get to see the code in this window, if you haven't figured that out already. So you can't edit this, but you can look at it. So the big news is, notice we have our start. This isn't the big news. In review, we've got a start method. We've got an update method. The big news is we've got a new method. So this is the first time we've done this in Unity, but the name of the method is onCollisionEnter2D. So, and this is specified, and it has to be spelled like this with the same caps and everything. So what I would do is go to the PowerPoint, the PDF, and I would highlight it and copy it and then paste it into your source code file, so that you don't, because if you misspell any of this or have it the wrong capitalization, it'll compile, but it won't work. And so the way this works is, if this object, which in this case is the Shrek head, collides with anything, this method figures that out and it'll execute what's ever between these two brackets, which, as you can see now, is nothing. But this is where you're going to put something that results from, that you want to have happen should that event occur, a collision, in this case, between the Shrek head and anything else. So my Shrek head, in order to have a collision, you need to have a collider. So since my Shrek head is sort of a funky shape, I chose a collider, not a box collider, but a polygon collider. And when I was making my components, and that makes it so that the funny boundaries of the Shrek's head, it accounts for that. So it's not just this big box, it goes to the edge of his head. So that's this guy. And then the donkey, which I think I'm going to rename so it's clearer, donkey. It has no code, and it's got a collider on it too. And I also chose a polygon for that also because the donkey isn't a clean rectangular shape. So if I play this now, the movie, and I have the Shrek head, it has code. So this isn't rigid body, this is code moving it. Notice the two bodies don't collide. And what happens, and you may have learned this already, but it's review then in your case, or maybe it's news, is at least one of the bodies needs to have a rigid body component. So I'm going to show you just by example that I'm going to add the rigid body to my Shrek head, rigid body, and notice if you don't want it to move because of it, which we don't want it to move in terms of gravity, make the gravity 0. So that's what I just did. So this is going to allow Shrek to move rigid body if it gets acted upon by a force, but the force due to gravity is going to be removed. So now what's going to happen, we're going to see. So now I'm moving along, and remember my addition is that this has a rigid body also. Now notice the donkey doesn't have anything. So this allows the collision to happen and there's a visible result, but it's just banging against the donkey. So depending on the behavior that you want, And in my case, I want the donkey to move. So I'm going to add rigid body to my donkey also. And I don't want it to fall. I just want it to be able to move if it gets hit by another force. In this case, it's the force of Shrek. So now they both have collider components, and they both have rigid body components that have the gravitational force turned off. And now you can see they do collide, and they do have some motion as a result of the collision. Okay, so that's the basics for the collision. And so they have to be able to collide, and then also whatever you write in the method, and I'll review that again if I click on this. Yeah, whatever you put inside of here is what's going to happen. I'll reenact this here. So nothing's happening, nothing's happening, nothing's happening, and then right now, boom, if there were a command inside of here, it would execute right at the moment, one time, right at the moment when the Shrek hit the donkey. So I'm going to do another little video that's going to have a lab that'll be in the process of building up Flappy Bird.